We love our PlayStation 5. The hardware is really sexy, the DualSense is amazing, and the exclusive games portfolio has proven to be excellent time and time again. However, there are a few things that prevent this console from being perfect. They go from very minor inconveniences to some very concerning things that really affect our enjoyment of the device. Get ready, because today we are having a look at 10 things we hate about the PlayStation 5.
Super players.
Number 10. One of the most exciting things about video game consoles has always been backwards compatibility. We can all remember getting a PlayStation 2 and still running PS1 games. Or when we got the Nintendo DS and our GBA library was still playable even if we sold or lost our Game Boy Advance at some point. Admittedly, backwards compatibility in the current generation of consoles is not what it once used to be. But Nintendo and Xbox are still putting in more effort to provide ways of playing older games. For example, Nintendo constantly increases their library of NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64 games that you can purchase from their store. And the Xbox Series X and S is not only backwards compatible with the Xbox One, but it's also compatible with many Xbox 360 and even original Xbox games. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the PlayStation 5. It does offer backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4, but that's about it. If you want to play PlayStation 2 or 3 games, you have to first purchase a PlayStation Plus subscription and not the basic one. You have to buy the most expensive subscription called PlayStation Plus Premium, and then you still cannot download those games and play them natively or through emulation. Instead, you have to stream those older games, which not only requires a very good and stable internet connection, but it still is far from a perfect way of playing games that require faster input. Running a game directly will always be more stable than streaming, and Sony really needs to catch up with its competitors in this department. Number 9. In 2014, when PlayStation 4 consoles came with 1 terabyte of storage space, it was more than enough, because even the largest games were mostly below 50 gigabytes. And since we used to have tons of games on discs as well, it saved us a lot of storage space overall, and we could install many games at the same time without a single worry. But when the PlayStation 5 came out with just around 667 gigabytes of usable storage space, it's no longer feasible to install a lot of games at the same time. Many games go over 100 gigabytes, and then their updates increase that even further. Not to mention that all of us are much more inclined to buying digital games nowadays. So some of these games aren't even accompanied by a disc, especially if you have the digital-only console. The only solution to get over this problem is to buy external storage. But there's a catch here too. You can only run PS4 games using an external hard drive on a PS5. For PS5 games, you need to buy specifically a compatible NVMe solid-state drive, which is much more expensive. So it's a lot of money that has to be thrown in extra, and thus the default storage space of the PlayStation 5 leaves much to be desired. Number 8. While Xbox Game Pass has become one of the most successful subscription services in the world of gaming, Sony only recently has been promoting a relatively similar service. And even then, the library is very lacking, and most of the games are quite old, which is a huge contrast compared to Xbox Game Pass, where not only do you get to use the pass on both Xbox and PC, you get all of Microsoft's exclusive games day one on the service. And then, if you want to play games through streaming, you can do it by choice, rather than having it as the only option using the xCloud service. Sony did add more options with the PS Plus expansion tiers that recently came out, but the library is still not up to par with having tons of games running natively on your hardware, and also having exclusives on day one. And not just exclusives, but many other games hit Game Pass day one as well. So, due to how many games have to be streamed, and the library generally being old, it's just not the best deal in town. And not having a true Game Pass competitor is one of the things we dislike the most about this console. Number 7. The days in which people only played video game consoles on TVs are long gone. Many people often hook up their gaming consoles to monitors since they typically offer better refresh rates for more competitive gaming. Unfortunately, the PlayStation 5 does not have support for the popular 1440p monitor resolution that is so common in PC gaming. As fans started to raise their voice on the matter, Sony simply stated that they don't currently have plans to support the resolution, to prioritize support for TVs. As you'd expect, Microsoft does support this resolution, and you can play games on it using the Xbox Series X and S. And yes, Sony often adds missing features through updates, so we hope they change their minds on this situation later. But right now, the lack of 1440p monitor support is one of the things we don't like the most about this console. Number 6. The PlayStation 5 body gains a lot of scratches and annoying fingerprints on its black piano finish. At first, we thought it was an isolated issue, but as soon as you look for solutions online, it turns out that thousands of people with the console have the same complaint. And of course, video game consoles are best placed in one spot, but that does not mean that we are never meant to move it. Sometimes you want to relocate it, or just put it away. In any case, it should be a part of the console's design to be a bit on the durable side, and the worst part is that even without moving it, no matter how careful you are, these scratches seem to appear magically, and for now, it seems they can't be fixed. Not to mention that Sony did a crackdown on the custom plates market, so they even tried to stop gamers from getting different cases that are not as easily scratched. Fortunately, D-Brand did relaunch in a way that they cannot be sued anymore, but it's still extra money and effort that you need to put in just to avoid ugly scratches on your console. Number 5. Another visual problem with the PlayStation 5 is that the DualSense controllers can be easily stained due to their white color. You can clean it without too much effort, but the fact that you have to clean it so often is annoying, especially considering the fact that the DualShock 3 and 4, although they easily caught dust, it was a simple wipe of a cloth to clean them right up. The stains on the DualSense, on the other hand, take more time and precision to be cleaned properly, and unfortunately have to be done much more frequently. Number 4. The $60 pricing for video games has been consistent for a very long time. For generations, it has been viewed as a "if it ain't broken, don't fix it" situation, and rightfully so, because gaming is one of the most profitable entertainment mediums at this current point in time. However, Sony has started to raise the pricing of their games to $69.99, which can be seen on both first-party exclusive games and other games like Call of Duty. On the other hand, Nintendo Switch games are still $60, and the majority of Xbox Series X and S games are $60 too, especially the first-party ones. Only a few third-party sports games are $70 on the Xbox platform, but some of them are still cheaper on Xbox than on PS5. Nowadays, video games come with so much DLC and special editions that cost $10 to $30 above the normal edition already. Some games are feeling somewhat incomplete at launch, so raising the price to $69.99 can be discouraging, and this situation happens the most on PlayStation 5. Number 3. Xbox has a consistent cloud syncing feature which allows gamers to not worry about losing their progress, especially if they have to reinstall their software or change their console at some point. Unfortunately, cloud syncing is still something that doesn't work well on the PlayStation platform. Ever since the PlayStation 3, you have to pay real money in order to have cloud saving privileges, while on Xbox, it's free. And on top of that, there is no default cloud saving feature. Instead, every game has its own different way of doing it based on who is handling the development of the game. The lack of a unified and free cloud saving option makes the PlayStation 5 feel like an outdated console, because whether you're on Xbox or PC, this is something that we take for granted in this generation. Number 2. Similar to the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, although less bad, the DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5 has a design defect which often causes its joysticks to begin drifting. This phenomenon manifests itself when your characters begin slightly moving on their own. This issue is so widespread to the point that a class action lawsuit was launched against Sony. Even worse, experts have analyzed the DualSense controller and realized that the drift is so common that it can even be predictable. So if you play the console for 2 hours per day, it's possible that you will end up getting drift on your DualSense within just 7 months. Ouch! Number 1. Out of every other problem listed in this video, the stock issue is perhaps the biggest offender. It's nearly impossible to get a PlayStation 5 console due to how horribly low the stock is. Even though the console has been released for quite some time now, only a few million people have the console, compared to how previous PlayStations sold over 80 million units because the stock actually existed. And Sony has not done much about the scalping issue either. Every time stock comes to a store, within the time between you adding your PS5 to the cart and checking out, bots and scalpers have bought every single console available, and then you find out all of the stock has been sold out right away. Your best bet at getting a console without giving hundreds of dollars to scalpers is to just use the PlayStation Direct Store program that gives you an exclusive chance at actually buying the console at MSRP pricing. But with millions of people on the waitlist, you can only imagine how small your chance of getting an invite is, especially considering how long the queue gets and how quickly they still sell out. We love our PlayStation, and the PS5 has been amazing. That's precisely why everyone wants one. But unfortunately, they just can't get it. A huge demand for the console and the inability for so many super players to get one is precisely the number one thing we hate the most about the PS5.
Super players.